Welcome to the Midlife Men podcast with me, Philip Briscoe. In this episode, I talk to Scott Oughton-Johnson, the founder of the Proper Blokes Club, a walking and talking community project for men's mental health based in London. Scott talks about his aims for the project, how he's building support brotherhood for its members, who he calls his lads. And then I talk to Danny and find out how the Proper Blokes Club has helped him with his mental and physical health. Welcome to the Midlife Men podcast, Scott. Can you start by telling me about the Proper Blokes Club and why you set it up?
Yeah, so basically what the club is, it's a peer-to-peer support group for men to encourage them to talk and to improve their well-being and try and break down that stigma of men talking about how they really feel on men's mental health. It's just to get men talking about what really matters and trying to put a dent in those shocking figures that 75% of men of the suicide rate are taking their own life. 75% of those who are doing it are men. So it's definitely something we need to do more as a sort of a nation, I guess. But I guess we're just doing our own little bit down here in London. But there's some other good projects around the country that are trying to do the same. So just getting a conversation started and making sure that men are in a safe space to open up and talk.
How many men do you think you've got who take part in your different walks?
I think the last time we looked, so we do a sort of weekly check, and I think we've got around 200, just over 200 lads within our WhatsApp groups we have for the areas that we function in. But we have around between 60 and 70 lads physically participating each week in the walk. So someone could come 1 week and then not come for 3 weeks, but still have that conversation if they want to within the WhatsApp group. So we're trying to maintain that feeling that we have on the walks so they can have it 24/7 used in the WhatsApp group.
And so what if someone comes along your group, what would they expect?
Just a safe environment to talk, really. And then what they'll find is there'll be a lot of lads that have probably been through something similar or they can relate to in terms of how they're feeling, stuff like that. So it really gives you that reassurance that you're not the only one that's suffering in that way. So it gives you that feeling of you're not alone, which I think is one of the big things. Although we know that a lot of people are suffering around the world or wherever that may be, we feel we're isolated within our issue, whatever it may be. But when you come to a group like ours and many of the other groups that are around, you realise you're not suffering in silence and you're not suffering alone. So we sort of create that brotherhood, that community really of lads coming together for the same causes. What's
the kind of background of the lads that come along? You know, are they from different walks of life, occupations, ages? How would you describe, your average person in one of your groups?
It's a real diverse group, really. We've got people from different religions, sexual orientations, from 18 to, I think the oldest one we've got now is 81, I believe, which is amazing. And we've got everyone in between. And all from a variety of walks of life, really. We've got doctors, we've got people that are unemployed, we've got people that are working in shops, we've got people that have got their own businesses, people that are quite well off, people that might be struggling a little bit. And I think it's a real good advert for no matter where you come from or what you do, you can actually come together with someone and find some common ground. So it's a real good advert of people coming together from different areas in life, and it proves that it does work when you put it into action. So it's a real diverse group. It's a real great space for people to leave all that stuff at work or at home and just come back and you're just a normal bloke just going about your day-to-day business and you're finding that in common with somebody else.
So you mentioned there a WhatsApp group. So are you finding that there's support, amongst the groups outside of the walks as well? Is there a kind of community developing as a result of the walking groups?
Yeah, definitely. We have the WhatsApp groups in place for a reason. Basically, if you was to come to a walk on a Monday evening and there's nothing to report or you're doing fine, but obviously we still encourage people to come down and support others. But on that Tuesday, something might happen that might rock you a little bit and you need that support. So you can relay that in the WhatsApp group and you can still maintain that conversation or that chat or that safe environment that we do on the walks. So you've got it constantly throughout the week.
And is there a leader in the group? Is there someone who helps to, manage the discussions? Or is it all self-managed?
So what we have walk leaders for every group who are people that I liaise with just to make sure everything's going okay and being a point of contact. And they do that. We're in a WhatsApp group. It's a bit more of a just anyone can message any time in there. Like a lot of us just say good morning in there, for instance, and then some people might say what's gone good in their day or whatever it may be, or something bad. It doesn't make no difference. But I don't put a question in and start a topic each day. It's just a space for people to talk if they need it. In terms, obviously, as I said, the walk leaders, they are like my point of contacts down at the walk. So if anyone new is coming along, I can give them the name of the person that's come in, but then I can also give the person their contact details of running late, or because when they come up to a group of lads, it might be a bit nerve-wracking saying, oh, is this the walking club? Like, at least they've got a name to say, oh, is John down here tonight? And then John will know that he's coming. Do you know what I mean? So there's a bit of that familiarity at the very, very beginning to try and make it a bit more of an easy transition in coming.
And how do men find out about local groups? How are you promoting what you're doing?
So what we've been doing up to date is relying heavily on people retweeting, sharing, popping on their stories on social media and stuff like that. And obviously word of mouth. We've not long ago become official. So now we're a community interest company, which allows us to apply for funding and stuff like that. So we're slowly but surely getting actual budget for marketing. So we'll be able to go to events, we'll be able to find more creative ways to spread the word about what we're doing. But at the moment, currently, it's word of mouth and basically some flyers we've got up and stuff like that, and heavy social media presence and stuff like that. So that's how we get the word out there at the moment.
How did you come up with the name, Scott?
It's just something, just a play with words, really. Like, I thought it'd be a good conversation starter, which it is. There's always someone, what's a proper bloke? And people got a misconception of what a bloke is sometimes as well. So it's good to have a chat with them about it and try and change their conception of what it actually is. It really just started with a fun play with words, really. And yeah, it's a good conversation starter, at least.
So do you think times are changing? Do you think, traditionally a lot of men wouldn't talk about their feelings or problems because, it might be perceived to be a sign of weakness? Do you think that's changing now? And if it is, how are, men, especially men who are older, in the middle age, how are they adapting to that, do you think?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a change in the tide of the conversations happening now. There's still a lot of work to go, but at least it's being spoke about a lot more, and especially those from the older generation. A lot of them are slowly changing their mindset of how mental health is dealt with, rather than the old man up or grow a pair or whatever it may be. I think actually a lot of those guys are probably coming out now and having conversations. Like I said, the age range from what we're having, I think majority of them are between sort of 30 and 50, but we have some older ones, which I've had some great conversations with, and it might have been the first ever time that they've had a conversation about how they're feeling, because that's how they're just wired. But it's definitely changing. I think the next generation that comes through, it won't be as much of a problem, but I think it's something that's always going to be there, like a lot of things. But I think if we can make positive inroads to change it, it's going to get better through time and through generations. But it's definitely getting better than it was previously.
And have you got plans to expand then right across London and beyond? Right now, where do you offer your walking groups, and where are you planning to open up some new ones?
Yeah, so at the moment we're only operating in London just to manage it a little bit, because I sort of run it all myself at the moment, other than the sort of walk leaders that have on the walks. But we're London based at the moment because it's easier to get hold of. But we've had a lot of interest from other big cities and places within England and stuff like that, so national. So hopefully probably next year, we're looking more to expanding into other places outside of London, but we just want to focus on London at the moment and try and get as many Londoners talking as we can, and then slowly spread that out of the capital.
Great. Well, that's really good to hear. Well, Scott, thank you very much for talking to us today. Really interesting. Good luck with everything.
What I would urge is just for some people that whoever's listening to it, just never feel that you're alone. Like, there's so many good organisations out there that can support and help you. And if anyone is feeling in a moment where they need that support, whether it's crisis help or not, there's lots of people out there, and act on it straight away once you feel that way, because before you know it, you start trying to talk yourself out of it. So if you need that support, go out and get it as quick as you can.
I'm very pleased to be joined now by Danny. Welcome to the Midlife Men podcast. So Danny, you're one of Scott's lads and regularly join the walks. Could you start by telling me the circumstances that led you to the Proper Blokes Club?
I think it was a bit of a perfect storm of events, really. I'd suffered a long period of ill health. I sort of lost my way in my direction at work because of it. I was put on a lot of weight because of the treatment that I was receiving. And it was just a case of what blokes normally do, ask if you're okay and say you're fine when you're really not. And I think it was just a case of being able to be in an environment where it was okay not to be okay.
And was there a point where you realised that you needed to do something? Was there a tipping point?
I think there was. My best friend actually pointed me in the direction of the Proper Blokes Club. I'd seen it on social media and floating about, and sort of said to myself, like, no, that's not really for you. It's not really what you want. And being a walking group and being a guy that was like 8 stone heavier than I am now, it was like, do I really want to go walking? So I'd avoided it really for a few months until my best friend basically said to me that, you've got to get this done. You've got to make a change here. But that's when I reached out to Scott.
And did you look for any other help?
Yeah, I'd spoken to my GP. It was the usual, offer of antidepressants and, online CBT courses, and nothing was really a good fit. I tried the CBT courses online and they were a bit new age for me. I think it's a polite term. So, yeah, there wasn't a good fit.
Is there something you wish someone had asked you?
I wish I'd been honest with people. That's the thing, like, because you know what blokes are like. Your mate says to you, "You okay, mate? Yeah, I'm fine. You?" And you're not. That was the big difference. It was okay not to be okay.
So tell me about your first experience going along to one of the walks.
Yeah, so the first experience was just a one-to-one with Scott around the local area. I suppose we decided we'd walk for half an hour or so, and that turned into at least 2 hours. Just chatting, just telling each other our stories and basically just being open with each other. And it seemed easier because Scott wasn't a friend. He wasn't a family member. It was easier just to let go, I think.
And how did you feel after that first walk? Did you feel like you'd made the right decision?
Absolutely, yeah. I felt like a weight had been lifted off me. I felt like being honest with the first person, I was able to be honest with other people. That was a big kickstart, really. Because I joined sort of 2 years ago now, during the lockdowns and the one-to-one meets and things like that. So it was quite nice just doing one-to-one walks with other blokes from the group and hearing their stories and how similar they were to mine in some regards.
So did it help you to understand that you weren't alone in how you were feeling?
Absolutely. And it normalised it. It normalised being able to speak about the issues I was having, because you was able to recognise yourself on every walk with the other bloke. You was able to recognise your own neuroses and your own issues, and it was really helpful.
So you found this better than the CBT that you've been pointed to?
Absolutely, because it wasn't someone basically telling you how you feel. It was a two-way conversation with someone who felt the same way, and you could offer advice and help to each other. Well, this worked for me. Well, that didn't work for me. Well, I've tried this or I've done that.
And how about in a group situation? So after lockdown?
They came later on, obviously. They came about 4 or 5 months later, I think, thinking back, where we was meeting at the Belfast on the Thames in groups of anything from 4 to 24. And it was just so familiar and so nice to be speaking to people that had the same problems you had for different reasons. I think I went into it with a lot of preconceived ideas. I thought it'd be a bit, it's your turn to hold the talking stick, but it really wasn't. It was just lads being honest with each other. And if you wanted to open up and talk about your problems or your issues, you could, but there was no pressure to do that either.
So how have you felt it's helped you then?
It's helped me in a lot of ways. Obviously, it's helped me lose the weight that I was struggling with from my treatment. It's helped me be more honest with my family and my other friends. And it's also, I think, it's helped me to help other people that are suffering the same sort of thing, because you can give them first-hand experience.
And do you feel, better's probably the wrong word, but do you feel different now?
I do. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think mental health, especially in men, is very isolating, and you do feel alone. And being part of the group has illustrated that you're not. Okay, you might all be there for different reasons, and you're all from different backgrounds, and you're all from different jobs and social standing or economic standing or race or creed, but the issues are the same. It's a great leveller.
What advice would you give to anyone who was feeling similar to you were feeling?
I think the first thing I would advise is to reach out to someone. It doesn't matter who it is what I found. Doesn't have to be your GP, doesn't have to be your best friend. It could just be someone, that you trust, really, that you can be confidential with. And I think that's the first step.
And can you tell me a bit more about the walks themselves? So you all meet up at, you said, the Belfast on the Thames. Are the walks really secondary to the conversations that you have?
No, I don't think they are secondary, because I think the act of walking actually takes your mind off the talking. It seems to just flow. The action of actually moving helps the speaking. I don't think it's secondary. I think they're hand in hand.
And so to anyone that was perhaps a bit nervous about joining because, that they're not used to walking or thinking it might be too far, what advice would you give them?
Well, I had exactly the same issues. And the great thing about the lads is no one walks alone. Obviously you can't walk in a group of 20 blokes walking down the street, but people will drop back and they'll talk to you, and people rotate, and you can go on one of the walks and end up having 8 different conversations with 8 different people that night. So don't be worried that you're going to be left behind. Don't be worried that you're not going to keep up, because if you can't keep up or you need a break, we'll wait for you.
And so is there support outside of the walks as well?
There is. We've got WhatsApp groups where you can just pop in something about the football, or you can put that you're having a really tough time today. And the great thing about the WhatsApp groups is there's always a lad around with some advice, or able to come and meet you and maybe go for a coffee, or, it's turned into a real community.
So I like the way that Scott calls everyone lads, regardless of their age. That's specific to the Proper Blokes Club, is it?
Yeah, I think it is. And it's quite specific to Scott. I mean, he's so enthusiastic for the group. He's so enthusiastic about championing men's mental health. And I think that rubs off on everyone. I mean, on our first walk, one of the first things he said to me is, you're only going to get as much out of this as you put in. And that's absolutely true. That worked out to be absolutely true. If you put stuff in, trying to get to know people, and they'll try to get to know you, and you build a bond.
How did you lose the weight? How did you lose the 8 stone?
I mean, a lot of it was diet. I'm not big on gyms or anything like that. But when I first met Scott, I was sort of halfway through that journey at about 19 stone. And the walking obviously helped with that. But it was also Scott giving advice, and, because he's a football coach, as you probably know, and giving advice on, what to eat and when to eat, and things like that, and giving attainable targets. And he would check in periodically as well. How's the diet going, mate? And he was able to say good, bad, ugly, and it gave some motivation.
So would you say your mental and your physical health has improved as a result of the Proper Men's Club?
Yeah, unquestionably. Yeah, it definitely has. Mental health was the biggest concern, and that's been the biggest help. When it comes to weight or diet, that's a bit more personal. It's a bit more of a personal journey, I suppose. But definitely having my mental health better helped lose the weight. I think the hardest part is the first walk. It took me 3 months on social media to go on the first walk. And once I did, you sort of never look back. It's that taking that first step. And I know it's scary, and I know that you feel like you're alone, but you're really not. Take that first step.
Well, thank you, Danny. That's been brilliant. Thanks for joining me, and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of Midlife Men. If you would like to find out more about the Proper Blokes Club, you can visit the website at www.theproperblokesclub.co.uk, or you can email theproperblokesclub@gmail.com, or you can call Scott on 07397 501110. If you have a suggestion for a topic you'd like us to cover in the podcast series, or if you have a story you'd like to share, then please contact me either on Twitter @midlifemen, or email me at midlifemen01@gmail.com. Join me next time when we talk to other midlife men about their stories. Maybe they'll resonate with you, and most likely, you're not alone. Thank you.